Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Midweek Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. We're streaming out live on Rumble, X, YouTube, as well as Facebook Live, and also live on BitChute. We'll be on the audio streams after the program, as per usual. If you listen to us on this Sunday Wire or watch us on the Sunday Wire, you'll know that the audio streams will be up after the program, so that includes iTunes and all the other main audio platforms. Again, I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We've got a special broadcast today. Obviously, important things are happening in the world, frightening things, worrying things. The war right now that's about to kick off, a lot of people believe the United States is going to join Israel in Israel's unprovoked war of aggression against Iran, and that might happen within the next 24 hours. Everyone's concerned about that. But there are people within the Trump administration that do have the power to possibly put the brakes on this. Whether they choose to or not is another story. One of those people is Tulsi Gabbard, and we'll bring this up on stage for a moment and take a look. There she is with President Donald Trump, and she is the Director of National Intelligence. That's Donald Trump's DNI. And there's been somewhat of a controversy. She issued an intelligence assessment back in late March that said categorically Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Okay, that is the intelligence community, the CIA, all the agencies in the United States. So I'd say that's a pretty authoritative assessment. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But not for Donald Trump. Apparently not. He basically threw her under the bus, and we'll talk about this and ask, where is Tulsi Gabbard? She's kind of disappeared recently, not very visible in public. You'd think with the gravity of what's going on to provide some reassurance that, this difference between the Trump administration's belief that Iran has nuclear weapons, which mirrors Israel's statements, but then the U.S. intelligence community says no, there are none. So which is it? And where's Tulsi? She seems to be missing in action on this issue. Now, to help us navigate this, we're going to bring on a couple of great commentators. We'll be joined right now on the live link with Freddie Ponton. He is the Associate Editor for Global Affairs at 21stCenturyWire.com. Freddie is joining us on the live link right now. Welcome to the program, Freddie.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. Great to be on the show.
It's great to have you, Freddie. Important conversation today. We're also going to be joined live from Moscow by also independent journalist, author, and international human rights lawyer Arnaud Develay is joining us as well on the live link. Arnaud, thank you for joining us on the Midweek Wire.
Thank you, Patrick. Hello, Freddie. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Anna.
It's great to have you both. I mean, we're gonna rely on both of you to help unpack what's going on, and it is a serious situation. It's also got a lot of people guessing and a little bit confused, quite frankly, as to what's actually happening. We'll bring on an article that's up at 21stCenturyWire.com right now, and this was put together by Freddie and the Global Affairs section of our website. We'll bring this up now. You know, the headline's very simple, and it's a simple question: where is Tulsi? Not only where is she physically, but where is she really on the issue? We'll try to unpack the facts on this. We'll bring this up on screen right now, and this is a piece that is giving you a pretty good summary of what's actually happening. It's up here on screen right now, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. She is the DNI, and you could say MIA at the moment. The DNI is MIA at the moment. If you scroll through this, give you a good sort of basic, layout of the order of events, what's been said and by whom, and the comments by Trump. We'll look at some of these statements on video in a moment, but we do direct people to 21stCenturyWire.com to get the full breakdown of this issue here. And of course, interesting and helpful piece by Responsible Statecraft, breaking down some of this. Tulsi said Iran had not built nukes. One senator after another ignored her. That's a pretty damning indictment and a situation involving some usual suspects, guys. I don't have to name names. Well, we'll name them anyway. Tom Cotton, Lindsey Graham, the rest of the warmongering caucus in Congress. So we'll bring back up on stage our guests here. And we'll start with you, Freddie, because you put together some of the research on this. So actually, before that, let's start with the statement by Tulsi Gabbard here. This is from, I believe, March 28th. And this was the assessment here in her own words.
And Supreme.
We'll show this in a moment here. So this is in her own words, not ours. And this is what she said.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
So there it is, guys. Freddie, first of all, pretty unequivocal, but doesn't seem to be where the Trump administration is on this. Freddie, your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, she's obviously put under the spotlight after Trump's comments on board of Air Force One, when Trump was asked by a press attaché, about the situation with Iran and referring to Tulsi Gabbard's statement, the very statement you just brought to the screen, and it's quite clear she's very adamant about the fact that the agencies, not one agencies, but several agencies over the past 10 years and more recently 4 years have come up with the same conclusion, and that there is no such a thing as a nuclear weapon program in Iran. Nobody denies the fact that there is uranium and enriched uranium available to the Iranians, but it's only at 60%. There is still another step to the ladder in order to go above 90%, in order to start even thinking about creating a nuclear bomb. And then around that, you obviously need to add a lot of technology and know-how that is yet not been seen by the inspectors. So this question was very important. And of course, Gabbard should have get the support from Donald Trump during this interview, and he's not. He's basically literally belittling Gabbard, and it doesn't matter what she says. However, she's a very important element as far as national security is concerned, and every American should be concerned that the United States president doesn't care about what his national security advisor and national defense advisor is telling him. So it's very, very concerning, to say the least.
Yeah, we've got that clip by Trump, Air Force One. I think this is Caitlin Collins from CNN, basically putting him on the spot on this and really straight up asking Trump, well, what about Tulsi Gabbard's intelligence assessment? Says there's no weapons, and his response was very dismissive. Here he is.
But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
Well, that's it. I don't care what she said. I think, says Trump, I think they're very close to getting it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the NSA, the CIA, or the DNI, doesn't matter what they say. For Trump, I feel so. I mean, is Trump got a magical palantir, a crystal ball? It's a pretty extraordinary situation. So effectively, he's throwing Tulsi Gabbard, however you spin this, guys, he's throwing her under the bus, okay? Basically saying that's not worth anything, and using this as a pretext, another WMD crisis. Here we go again. Arnaud, here we go again on the WMD road to war. Deja vu. We've been here before. I can't believe we haven't learned these lessons, but here we go. What do you think about this? Because this is kind of sloppy. They haven't even gone through the theatrics to, like say, put the talcum powder in the vial at the United Nations, or do the rendering of the Winnebagos of death, the mobile anthrax labs, all these theatrics that they did to create the case, the fabricated case to attack Iraq in 2003, haven't bothered with any of that here. The public doesn't seem to be buying it, but Congress is buying it. Israel wants it. The lobby wants it. Trump wants it. Arnaud, what do you make of this situation?
Yes, Patrick, I guess the first thing that comes to mind, or that jumps to my eyes, is the contrast between the well laid out marketing campaign of fall 2002, winter 2003, with everything from the special plan, official special plan in the Pentagon, famously related by Karen Kartovsky, Eb Shulsky, Douglas Feith, all those visits at the time by Dick Cheney at the agency, being told by the guys at the time that there was no connection between Iraq and Al Qaeda, and him saying, you have to look harder, you have to look harder, and then creating through his own chief of staff, Libby, the whole get around mechanism, which was used by and large to promote this notion that not only was there a connection between a secular dictator, i.e. Saddam Hussein, and a religious fanatic like bin Laden, but by and large that both of those individuals were collaborating, exchanging technology to send strategic weapon to the US, which would, if I remember the quote, 45 minutes, drone, 45 minutes, the atomic mushroom smoking gun, from Condoleezza Rice. And but yeah, this was a whole basically repeating and the same thing, reinviting the same people on cable news network. At the time, internet was not such a thing, and remember, we were still dealing with the seminal event, of 9/11. This modern Pearl Harbor, which was used to appeal to the emotional lower instinct of the American people, their thirst for blood, their thirst for revenge. So they were able to get away with it, in the sense of what Naomi Klein would call this kind of consideration, this kind of by the time you realize what's been done to you, they've moved on. And you're just left to contemplate the ruins. And here, this is completely absent. All this is contrived, and I would say that the cherry on the cake is that Tulsi Gabbard, almost like a sacrificial lamb. I mean, she's made her whole shtick is to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
That's the reason why she was demoted from the DNC, Politburo, after a promising career, and basically kind of sidelined for enough time for her to realize that there might be a possibility to reinvent herself as a Republican through the MAGA movement. And just when she's supposed to be coming through and being everything that everyone's been pegging out her to be, it's a deafening silence. And so, there's still some time. Let's see what happens. But I don't like what I see right now. That's to be sure.
So we'll look at what's been said and what's been actually reported on this. And look, I take what Politico does with a pinch of salt. A lot of it's because it's a lot of the rumor mill, the engineered intentional leaks, things like that, designed to obfuscate, also to show unity when there's no unity. We all know what that's like. When you hear everyone's on the same page from multiple sources, that means they're not on the same page. That's how Washington works. And we'll just bring this up. So that's the big question. Where is Tulsi on this? Now, June 10th. So she wasn't, Freddie, she wasn't invited to the Camp David summit just recently, right?
Yes, on Sunday.
And don't you find that unusual?
it's unbelievable because the top advisor, Trump top advisor, are present during these meetings, and they are bound to be there, if you will. These are top level discussions that is helping forging foreign policies. And it's extremely important at this stage to have the intelligence to support this decisions. But I think it is quite clear from day one that Tulsi will be a little bit the dark horse in terms of supporting any kind of war effort in the Middle East. And I think that they knew that. So that's why she was not invited. So not absent, just not invited. That's very important. And I was listening to Steve Bannon, who's someone extremely pro-Israel and all that kind of things. And even him is saying, what the hell is going on here? You know, you're sidelining the DNI, and now you're preparing us to go to war with Iran. You know, this is just simply not what the people have voted you for. And more importantly, we're gonna hit the wall with this. You know, the economy cannot support a two front. You know, because Ukraine is still need to be solved. This issue has not been resolved. And then on the other side, a new opening front will just be catastrophic. And then that is if everything goes well. We're not even absolutely sure that the American, in the current states of their military, can actually claim a win. They might obviously inflict a lot of destruction should they decide to go to war with Iran. But Iran is not that alone. You know, this is the same consensus that we were sold with regards to, you know, Russia being completely isolated from the world, but doing extremely well. And then Iran, we've been told, oh, they're completely isolated. The Hezbollah is out. The Houthis, you know, Ansarallah is completely lost out there. You know, they're not going to move. They cannot cross anywhere. Saudi Arabia.
Syria's fallen.
Syria has fallen. So they're isolated, and that's what we've been bombarded with. That they're on their own. They cannot resist the might of the U.S. military. But I wouldn't put all my egg in the same basket at this stage, because they've demonstrated so far huge technical capabilities. I think they've been extremely wise. They've been extremely kind of calm about the whole thing. I mean, you know, you're taking on the Israel/US and you're remaining calm. You get some of your top military advisors and operatives that have been taken out, and yet you're still capable of putting together a massive retaliatory kind of operations, you know, targeting and being very precise at targeting military assets in Israel. So that's where I am at the moment, if you will. I'm saying that Tulsi has been basically put aside because of a stance and a pro-peace kind of, you know, she's not advocating for more war. That's where she wanted to be with Trump. I think that's where she fits in the Republican, is that let's focus on domestic policies. Let's try to find policies that are harmonious, that obviously don't put the heat on the United States, because the US cannot afford it any longer. The problem is the miscalculation on both sides, Patrick. On one side, Trump knows that he has no basically national security advisor, and it's basically claimed publicly that he doesn't care what the DNI is saying. So who is addressing foreign policies or the national security aspect of the foreign policies? Who does that job? No one. It is Trump. Trump with his all might and intelligence and free-digit IQ is kind of, is going to save the world, But I think people should be extremely worried, because Tulsi, despite all that people may say, she still have a lot of influence. She's lost some, no doubt, but she still have a lot of influence and a lot of support within the administration. And the really core essence of MAGA will rally behind Tulsi. Now we need to know, of course, where Tulsi is and what she's going to do about it.
So on that score, so wasn't at Camp David, and when this seems to be a disagreement, things have been said about her within the cabinet and advisors, aides, and so forth. We'll go through some of the things that have been reported on Politico, so this was posted here by Tulsi Gabbard on, I believe, June 10th. And so as she's getting, so what this could be what caused the snub, but she said, I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city scarred by unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945 at the end of Second World War. It was dropped by the United States, the only country to use nuclear weapons in theater. What I saw, the stories I heard, and the haunting sadness that remains will stay with me forever. So it's a bit of a cryptic message at a time when she would have known that there's already plans on the table to join Israel. She would have known that there was a preemptive strike coming, and that we were going to be joining in the United States. So we'll play this message that she gave here.
I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. This attack obliterated the city, killed over 300,000 people, many dying instantly while others died from severe burns, injuries, radiation sickness, and cancer that set in the following months and years. Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Homes, schools, families, all gone in a flash. The survivors, the hibokusha, they carried the pain of extreme burns, radiation sickness, and loss for decades. Survivors of this attack were asked to put in paintings and drawings their own memories and how they felt and what they saw, and those paintings and the suffering that they conveyed, the pain and the sense of loss were almost more powerful than the photos themselves. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction in Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core: people, buildings, life itself. The shockwave would crush structures miles away, killing and maiming countless people. And then comes the fallout. Radioactive poison spreading through the air, water, and soil, condemning survivors to agonizing deaths or lifelong suffering. A nuclear winter could follow, with smoke and ash completely blocking the sun, plunging the world into darkness and cold, killing crops and starving billions. Acid rain would scar the earth, wiping out entire ecosystems. This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Now, listen, you guys, this is highly unconventional for somebody serving in a cabinet position, a lower cabinet position. DNI is not a high cabinet position. It's not on the same par as Secretary of State and some of the higher portfolios and so forth. So she is basically appealing to the people to go. She's going over and under her boss, going to the people saying they need to pressure the political elites. I assume that's the President of the United States and the U.S. government here, because that's who she has control over. That's who she should be talking to here. And so this would have probably rubbed the Trump administration the wrong way, or this is just very sophisticated theatrics. Arnaud, how would you read this? This is hugely unusual, to say the least. Is it because she is acting out of, genuine concern here, or are there some political theatrics going on, some WWF wrestling type things going on here? It is the Trump administration. He is the master of WWF. Arnaud, your thoughts?
Well, if it is indeed a scripted subliminal message, it feels off. I would not have done it like this. I mean, the anniversary of Hiroshima is not until August 6th, so there's not even any kind of relevance to the content of the video per se. And this is pretty much something we have to always keep in mind when
is it possible she went to hold on, that's a good point, Arnaud. Is it possible she went to shoot this and it wasn't supposed to be released until later, and it's well produced, by the way. This is a very slick presentation, isn't it? But continue, Arnaud. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, sometimes you have to keep it simple, and you have to appeal to some of those, I would say, collective markers. And, we are only in June, so one could make the case that she might be in possession of key information bearing on an impending crisis, which could lead to a potential nuclear exchange. But I mean, sorry, girl. I mean, if this is really what you know, you should basically go for it and just say to the public what you know. This is not going to be remotely enough. So I don't know. To me, it just feels like a wet firecracker. In terms of communication, that's not what I would have done. And remember that yes, the DNI might be a lower cabinet, but this is actually a DNI report that prevented an attack on Iran back in 2007, 2008 under Admiral Fallon. So does that mean that within the Pentagon they are now, or at least those people have been removed, or they went into retirement? Obviously, the naming, the appointment of Pete Hegseth, I kind of alluded to Pete Hegseth being the 2.0 version of Jerry Boykin. My God is stronger than your God. This is somewhat, reminiscent of this.
Here's Hegseth with Gabbard, Hegseth, and J.D. Vance, I guess, visiting the border. She's got her border hat on, the rugged look. J.D. Vance is wearing Zelensky-style high-tech hiking boots, and they're off to do the border thing. So this was a photo op. You can see Hegseth in the back with the sunglasses and his body adorned with many tattoos, all 42 years old of him. Highest ranked major in the U.S. Army, Minnesota National Guard Reserves, or whatever it was. He somehow landed the job as defense secretary out of the Fox News Weekend, Fox and Friends show. But that's Trump. There they are, Arnaud. And so that's the image. That's the image that they want to convey. Everyone's on the same page. This is an all-star team. This is MAGA bringing together Democrats, Republicans, Tulsi, RFK, etc., and they're all on the same page. Doesn't look like they're on the same page, though, on this story. It looks like there's more going on here. This is Ray McGovern, Arnaud, and he is commissioned by JFK as an intelligence analyst, served 5 or 6 presidents, and he's saying here, memo to Tulsi Gabbard, resign. Trump has trashed the last vestige of independent intel analysis. Don't lie. You are not on the same page. Leave lying to Trump. He knows Iran is not working on a nuclear weapon. Go public. Americans have the right to know. Arnaud, what do you think? This is now, these are people that are well watched within Washington on Judge Napolitano's channel and so forth. They have a huge audience, arguably bigger than some mainstream media programs and much more influential. What do you make of this, Arnaud?
Well, what can I say? Red McGovern is right on the money. I mean, Red McGovern is heads, for those who might not know it yet, this collective of former intelligence officials who've basically always promoted the importance of reliable information, intelligence prior to making key decisions. And he's pretty clear here. He says, in this current situation, based on what we know and what the president has said, and how Tulsi Gabbard has been, you've been essentially humiliated. The post you occupy has been sullied by such a disdain. The only thing you can do at this current time is to resign. I mean, if the idea is to play ball in exchange for some kind of a career down the path, this is not going to work. No one is going to remember her, but for the fact that she should have been coming through at the most crucial moment in recent American history, and she dropped the ball. So if the idea, in her mind is to somehow play along, be a team member, with the idea that she will get promoted by the establishment down the road. I mean, to the extent there's even an establishment left, because we're not far-fetched or exaggerating here when we say that this has global implication. Right now, it's limited to a regional conflict, but we don't know what could happen. And I'm just flabbergasted. I'm just at a loss trying to understand the rationale behind Tulsi Gabbard. I understand she operates in a very this is the swamp. This is foggy bottoms. You have a lot of factors coming in. She's a politician. There's no going back to the Democratic Party. So but I'm at a loss here, to be honest. I don't understand remotely how this adds up.
Well, let's take a look at the reportage on this, try to get a fix on this one. Some of these details are, of course, at 21st Century Wire, but this is what Politico was reporting here, gentlemen, inside the clashes between Trump and Gabbard. And let's just look at some of the details here. So in the eyes of Trump and some close to him, Gabbard was warning him not to greenlight Israel attacking Iran. Trump even expressed his disapproval to her personally. Okay, said the three people said. So three separate sources there, Fred. And just before I go to you, Fred, we'll look at this other detail here. And Gabbard insisted to reporters Tuesday. So I think this was Tuesday of this week. She did speak to reporters, and she said that her and the president are, quote, on the same page on Iran. And a person close to Gabbard denied any tensions between her and the president. So we have conflicting reports there, who to believe. And we'll look at here. So this came on CNN. This is interesting, guys, because this looks like this was meant to basically, tamp down any talk of a split. President Trump was saying the same thing that I said Gabbard, in my annual threat assessment back in March. Which was what exactly? That's the detail missing here. Unfortunately, too many people in the media don't care to actually read what I said. Tulsi said to CNN. And what she's inferring here is that there's no disagreement. But clearly, Donald Trump has revised that. And this looks like damage control on her part. Because, Fred, if you look at the discourse analysis on this, something's missing here. I think some politics are happening. Your thoughts, Freddie?
Well, I know that what she's saying is simply damage control. And the reason why is because the way Politico is framing the story, The video you just showed about this chilling nuclear kind of a warning, Politico said that this video emerged few days following the meeting between influential lobbying group of GOP hawks, and Trump at the White House. These guys came together and they urged Trump to endorse Israel military action against Iran. And she had wind of that, and basically to put some pressure. This is how it's framed, that she put out this video in terms of kind of, pointing the fingers and saying what these guys are up to. Are they trying to plan a nuclear attack on Iran? Because obviously they are so their base and the nuclear base and stations are so deep in the mountains and on the ground that it will take certain technology to get there. So my view on it is she's in damage control, and we have other data that clearly shows what is the current situation in Iran as far as the technology is concerned. So she knows what we know, what the Iranian knows, what the IAEA knows, and she's now doing true politics. And I think she's a political beast, to be honest with you. I think the way she looks at it, it's very presidential. That will work for a president, someone at this level. Mm-hmm. That video doesn't work for a DNI. You want to be abrupt, you want to be very factual, you want to be very precise, and you don't want to be on CNN to announce this kind of news. So she's been political. What is the agenda behind that? Is it to undermine in her own right, Donald Trump's nonsense, and say, look, these guys, he promised us everything. She sees an opportunity, and she might just weaponize that opportunity for political gain, because, we're going to be sprinting to midterms in no time, and she might just want to make a good impact. Because when I look at this video, now, if you're not really well politically informed, you'll look at her and say, she's so presidential. It doesn't matter if it sells or if it makes sense for people that are analyzing the context behind this video and so on. But for the normal Joe MAGA guys looking at that, she's saying, what, I like that girl, I'll vote for her. She goes for president, and she has a huge support base. So is she undermining Trump? Is she trying to signal? Yes, it's possible.
Arnaud, what do you? Freddie's brought up interesting possibility there. She will most likely, anyway, her colleagues close to her hinted that she has not ruled out running for president in 2028. It's going to be an open field on the Democrat and the Republican side. Trump's done this 2 terms, so it's opened up on both sides. Who knows what party she'd run for? I suppose Republican, but I'm not sure. But Fred's brought up an interesting prospect. I see positioning here. And Freddie's right. It's not something you expect from a DNI. Is she's positioning herself. I just can't work out how you could pull one of these midstream with Trump while you're sitting in DNI. It's still baffling. And again, there's something going on with the theatrics here, Arnaud. Just politically, Arnaud, what do you think?
Well, I don't know about, the tactical, adoption of, what she's doing in terms of positioning herself. All I know is that her brand has always been that she knows what war is like. She served. She served in a way that, gives her the street cred to talk about those, war and peace issues. And so this is not something that should be, taken lightly. To the extent she would somewhat mute criticism so as to be palatable to the powers that be and the donor class, I think it's a miscalculation. I mean, she's not in the top of the list. There are a lot more conveniently situated possible candidates who are already, pre-listed before her, and I think she's just by playing on their rules, on their grounds, trying to appear presidential, quote unquote. She's basically she's diluting her brand. That's my take on it.
I think that's an interesting angle. I personally think you don't go from DNI to president, or to run for president. The path is normally from senator, maybe Congress, but very rarely, or governor and senator. And Trump is obviously the exception to the rule, but he has been in the public eye for 40, 50 years. So, and also television, tangential to politics, kind of a different beast, Trump altogether. But Tulsi comes out of the political world, and a lower cabinet position doesn't equal path to president. But she is popular. She is a woman. She's good looking. She presents well. If Trump made a balls up of this Israel-Iran thing, and that's also possible. And if he made a balls up of Ukraine-Russia, that's kind of happening, and ends up making a balls up, of course, of Gaza, which has already happened. Just from a contrast of the disaster of Trump, which is already forming right now, let's be honest, and she could say, I tried to warn the people, this disaster, and Donald Trump, I was the voice of reason there. I was rejected. I'm your solution for the future, for peace. I can see that. So from that point of view, Arnaud, I kind of see where you're coming from on that. So let's go back to the Political article here and take a look what else was said. And this is where it kind of gets interesting. Gabbard said that even the intelligence community assessed that Tehran hadn't reinvigorated its nuclear weapons program, finding consistent with assessments shared by senior officials during the Biden administration. Iran's stockpiles, however, of enriched uranium were at the highest level. So that's the Trump angle on this, is that, well, they might not be assembling a weapon, but their enrichment levels are the highest ever. But they were still under supervision of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and legally they're still within the bounds of that. So practically speaking, it's a kind of argumentative attack on Iran by Israel, by the Trump administration. It's not, they're not breaking the law in terms of their obligations with international bodies and treaties. But then it gets more interesting here. A Gabbard ally said she's fully on board with Trump, is trying to do what he's trying to do with Iran, said she's never let her personal views color the advice she provides to the president, nor has she tried to sway Trump to her own point of view. Well, isn't that what a DNI is supposed to do? If the intelligence, she's curating and translating the intelligence. So there is going to be an opinion, a professional opinion or a personal view, but maybe not in the Trump administration, because it seems like in the Trump administration, doing a good job is telling Donald what he wants to hear. Everyone kind of gets the feeling this is how business is being run in this administration. Arnaud, what do you think about that?
Yeah, obviously it's all it's a cabinet that's built around this idea that the Don has the final word, and that he could one day say one thing and the next say its exact opposite, and so you have to somewhat remain coy and reserved. But here, I mean, like you said, she's the DNI. This is what the job description is about. So it's not really about trying to court Donald Trump. It's trying to remain professional within the confine that you were confirmed by the Senate for. To me, it's just, do your job.
There's a whole different set of rules. Yeah, go ahead.
If you cannot do your job as DNI, how can you be trusted to lead the country down the road?
Yeah, good question, Freddie. Do you have any opinion on this? I mean, this is what we hear from the Trump administration. If you step the wrong way or you go against the boss, you're out, or you'll be marked to be ejected. Like Elon is an example. Mike Waltz, others, and you basically, you're sort of cast off. Basically, what do you think on this one?
Oh, what I realize is, and as Arnaud just mentioned is there's not much difference between Macron and Trump. These are people that are ruling in the same way. They acquire, they capture, if you will, the level of control in the administration. They can, as I say, rule without a State Department review doesn't function properly as a Secretary of State. And then on the other side, you have no national security advisors, and the DNI is clearly, whatever she says or whatever analysis coming from offices is not important. It's irrelevant. So Macron does the same. You know, they acquired this. This is really about capturing power for themselves, and that's really what is confirmed by all these recent events. Is that Trump is not in a position to entertain any other people that are going to challenge him on his core, missions and agenda, especially with regards to foreign policies. And he seems to be the one that says, and is the captain of the boat and saying, we'll take in this direction. And I don't need intelligence. I've already made my mind, So that's a very dangerous thing to have as a leader of your country, if someone does not have the humility to take advice from the people that he himself appointed in the first instance. All the rest is communication, damage control, dozens of people working around, making sure that they're going to show a united front. That seems to be extremely important for the Trump administration, to show that cohesion and making sure that everybody is going to be on board of that attack on Iran should they decide to go. So we need to have everybody on board. We cannot have a dissenting voice at this stage. And if they do, we'll punish them. She's got definitely a little whip there. She got a warning, say, look, that's your last mistake here. You play along, you go along, you'll be fine. But you do these kind of things, you'll be out before even you know it. And that wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't even think twice, about doing it. So she has to issue this kind of statement to stay in place. Otherwise, she's out.
Because during a crisis, it's a very bad look to have instability or disagreement within. So a certain amount of this would be tolerated during the crisis period or the key period and maybe be sorted out later, because he could come under heavy opposition if somebody saw a crack within the cabinet, especially the DNI. And that brings us to this effort here. So this is Ro Khanna from California, and there's Thomas Massie, two congressmen, two anti-war congressmen, a Democrat and a Republican. House Republican and Democrats move to limit Trump from entering the war. They've tabled a resolution. Last time I checked, 29 co-sponsors to block Trump's illegal war of aggression against Iran, joining Israel in an illegal war. So that's Massie, and let's see what Thomas Massie said here, taking to X. Most Americans do not support U.S. involvement in Israel's war against Iran, which begs the question, why doesn't more of Congress oppose it? Literally no one campaigned on another war in the Middle East. That's absolutely for certain there, and perhaps... And that kind of echoes what both of you have said here. There's a big gap between and Tulsi kind of said this in her Hiroshima no nukes video, that political elites and warmongers, like the ones that she's in the cabinet with, like the president. So this is what Massie's saying. So same type of the public are one way, the political Washington's another way. Washington's a minority. The majority of the country don't want it. And so the answer, of course, Thomas Massie will tell you, is this: House of IPAC. So that's who won the last election in 2024. Israel won the last election. They say the blue seats there, 84 Democrats. The black ones in the middle, those are all IPAC. 2 vacant, and then the red are Republicans. So the colored seats are the only ones not taking money from IPAC. A little bit of a advantage on the Republican side, but pretty much bipartisan. IPAC has control of the Congress. and Congress has power of the purse, and ultimately, if we're playing by the rules, we'll issue or okay a declaration of war in this case. But not with this Congress, Arnaud. With this Congress, there's not going to be any declaration, or the question's not even going to be put to a vote, I would think. Your thoughts, Arnaud?
Well, I mean, to be sure, Congress hasn't embarrassed itself to abide by the, traditional duties of approving declaration of war. And we only have to go back to, if anything, 2002 and the authorization of use of military force, which a couple of years ago was somewhat revised and toned down. But essentially, yes, it's the unitary executive doctrine. Dick Cheney's pet idea has triumphed in DC, especially in as far as deployment of troops overseas. And so, no, this is a non-starter. You mentioned 29 sponsors. Assuming by the greatest hazard, miracle that it gets to the Senate, it will be shut down in the Senate. They just don't have the horses. It's a locked in Congress, and as you said, AIPAC is driving the train. The train to where, that remains to be seen.
Yep. So, listen, guys, this is a major potential crisis on multiple levels in the U.S. politically. This is not a popular war. It's illegal, but the deep state governments that are also wanting this, like Britain, France, Germany, they're right behind the U.S. on this. That Israel has a right to, quote, defend itself, even though Israel is the one who started this war. The ultimate war crime, according to the Nuremberg principles, an undeclared war of aggression. So we're just casting all this aside now, and so there's a lot of anarchy in the international system, and I could go a little bit deeper into this and say how the international conservative and populist right has been hijacked by Israeli plants and intellectuals that are basically, and you can see a lot of trashing of international law, trashing of the liberal internationalist post-World War II system, trashing of the UN, trashing of UNRWA, etc. You see a pattern going here, is that certain states want anarchy because these are, particularly the United States and Israel, because they're able to basically get away and do whatever they want, and will only invoke international law if it suits them. Look at the ICC. It's being sanctioned by the United States. Look at the International Courts of Justice. Israel's called it an anti-Semitic court for even proposing that there may be genocide going on in Gaza, Freddie. So, Freddie, there's more going on here even than just the situation we're looking at more broadly. This is a full attack on the post-World War II international system. And it's really paralyzing, I think, certainly on the UN level. I didn't see any real condemnations of Israel on this, not even at the UN Security Council level, and certainly not the UN General Assembly. This would be just a slam dunk vote at the UNGA. Nothing. What do you make of this, Fred? Go ahead.
They're going to be speaking about it. I think Macron has asked a meeting today, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, Arnaud, if you've seen it passing, but I think he asked for a meeting at the UN to discuss the Iran-Israel conflict. So God knows who's going to be at the table and what are, at the end, to be honest with you, these are diplomatic talks about trying to solve a problem which origin basically lies in the United States. If you take the United States out of these equations, you don't have Israel with any power to a certain degree. And I'm not saying that the US is fully responsible for everything, but what I'm saying is that this is a huge weight in the balance of power. And there's a lot of takeaway for the US to control, as I said in some of my posts and articles. It's really far more about, it has nothing to do with the nuclear power program. I think it has to be clear for everyone at this stage that the US is not supporting Israel's war against Iran because of an imminent nuclear threat. That's just absolutely a plain lie. Let's call a lie a lie. But there is a lot of economic interest for the United States as far as the economic routes. And Iran happens to be literally at the center of this logistical hub for the trade from Asia, from China, from India, and the ability basically to take full advantage of the corridors, the international corridors going through Eurasia, going through the northern routes towards Russia's, and then access to Europe. So this is extremely valuable, especially within the context of the popularity of the BRICS, and then of course the discussion surrounding the move away from the dollars as a currency to trades where countries would be able to use their own currency to do business. This is not going to happen in a day. This is trillions worth of investment. But one thing we know for sure is Iran has a big role to play in that. And if you look at the route of the IMEC, the International Middle East Corridor, you will see, India Middle East Corridor, sorry, you will see that Israel has and wants to play an important role alongside Saudi Arabia to be the main access to Europe. And then notwithstanding, of course, the importance of Israel to be able to sell their gas, the natural gas, to Europe as well. So other pipeline projects, Cyprus, Greece, big support from the European Union. They don't want to see Russia being strong, and they don't want to see Iran being strong, and they don't want to see China being strong because it's not working for them. You know, they have control, as you demonstrated quite clearly, within the Congress. And the Congress, of course, that spreads on the top job within the administration. So you don't need to control everything, just the top jobs at the defense, at the trade, the agricultures, and so on and so forth. And that's what Israel, in my view, is counting on, is the United States' desperation to control these trade routes and to undermine basically BRICS and the Chinese plan, you know, for this particular region, which is West Asia. And that's why you had all these conflicts, Syria, Lebanon, and now Iran. And of course, we all know this has always been a plan for a very long time to take out, I can't remember how many countries it was, but 7 countries, one after the others. And we all know that after Syria and Lebanon and after Hezbollah was done, Iran was next, if you will, on the map of destruction. Will they succeed is another story, of course.
Here's a map of the one of the many maps for what Freddie's talking about, the middle corridor here, and of course there's numerous routes. I mean, one of the most consequential, of course, is the north to south between Russia and Iran. That's massive, right down to the Indian Ocean and straight to Mumbai. So totally bypassing the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, Bab el-Mandeb Straits, etc. But yeah, Freddie's alluding to this. There's multiple different configurations and routes here. This is all also part of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. So that's kind of the big picture, what's at stake, and probably that deserves a whole analysis on its own, which we've done a little bit of that in the past. Freddie's done some great research on that. It's up at 21st Century Wire. Just put middle corridor into the search bar there. But just back to the subject at hand and what's happening in the United States with this. So we're sitting at a situation right now. Hold on one second. We're sitting at a situation right now whereby we have a potential rift in the U.S. and to me it's not obvious. It's not obvious at all where exactly the Trump administration is. John Kiriakou was on Alex Jones yesterday, and he said that the United States will join Israel on Thursday. He said they will join Israel on Thursday. So ex-CIA analyst, his contacts in Washington say Thursday. That's tomorrow. The United States will join Israel and bomb Iran. So, and that's a fait accompli. It's going to happen. We don't know for sure whether that's true. This is what we hear. I certainly think it's plausible. Would this bombing run include nuclear weapons? Because obviously, Arnaud, I'll go to Arnaud on this. Arnaud, we have deep underground nuclear facilities that the Iranians have. Conventional weapons aren't going to be able to do the job. Dropping a Moab, it requires maybe a direct drop. So that's going to require an aircraft right over the target in Iranian airspace. I don't see that happening either. And flying slow, that's going to be difficult. So tactical nukes, that could happen. That's a game changer as well. So if the U.S. come in, I'll get Freddie your opinion on this as well. If the U.S. come in on Thursday, tomorrow, what do you think that's going to look like? And I know Putin's been doing shuttle diplomacy for all parties involved, offering to be a mediator. I think his offer has been rejected. Russia's concerned. That's also an important point here, what Russia thinks. Lavrov has issued a categorical warning to the U.S., do not even think about it. That's what Sergei Lavrov said earlier today. So if this happens, if it goes ahead on Thursday or a few days after, by the weekend, Arnaud, how do you think this is going to go down?
Well, to be sure, as you mentioned, they would need to use the Moab 30-ton bomb, bunker buster, but they would have to do it over several days, several sorties. Because from what I understand, the Ferdor installation is deeply, or 200 meter deep into the mountains. So they would really need to, as you say, first make a big hole and then drop as many of those devices as can be conceived, which would make, I guess, the assistance from defensive to offensive. There's also talks that they would provide such devices to the Israelis so as to get somewhat of a cover story that allows them to say that they're not involved. So I don't know how this will play out. What's certain is that the Iranians have contingency plans. From what I understand, they've gotten their hands on the blueprint for Dimona. They've demonstrated times and times again the accuracy of their ballistic systems. And precision as such. So if they go that way, you can be sure that Dimona is going to be targeted. I mean, it's only logical, right? So we could have a major situation on our hands here. Now, basically, if the perception from Tehran is that the U.S., notwithstanding their statements that it is the Israeli basically doing what they're doing, that's not going to wash. Tehran is not naive. They know very well that the U.S. is full-fledged involved in this aggression against their sovereignty, and so we can imagine that it's going to open a whole can of worms as far as U.S. bases in the Gulf, U.S. bases in the region at large, probably a mining of the Strait of Hormuz, and to the extent, there's a benefit to be had by the Israelis on this. They may themselves decide to sink an aircraft carrier to, make sure that the perception in the U.S. is that Iran has killed our sailors. It's a very dicey, unpredictable situation, and again, to the extent this, because let's be honest here. Israel wants regime change. The U.S. is invoking the nuclear capability, the breakout capability, as the casus belli. But in the end, it's all connected, because if you take out Iran's potentiality as to the making of a nuclear weapon, you are ensuring that down the road, their conventional capabilities will be taken out, the regime will be removed, and it will be the end of independent Iran, with everything that this implies, as far as what Freddie was talking about earlier, on the emergence of the BRICS and the One Belt, One Road, and all the billions of investments that have taken place. I mean, this is a game changer. This is not for nothing that the neocons themselves referred to Iran as Iran is the prize. You know, they used to say boys go to Baghdad and men go to Tehran. So let's make no mistake about it. It all comes down now. Things are coming to a head, and the Israelis are smelling it. It's there. I mean, Wesley Clark might have said 7 countries in 5 years. It took 25 years, but they're there. You got to hand it out to them. They plan long time, and they don't deviate one iota. They may temporize, when the opposition is at a particular moment too strong, but they'll recalibrate, they'll realign, and whenever the opening presents itself again, they'll just rush into it. So this is it. This is not just yet another chapter of those forever war regime change operation. This is the top prize. This is the final component of the rocket, so to speak. And as you said, Freddie, I would add, just as a final word, that this actually can be a life-saving scenario for many of the Western countries, what with their economies being in tatter, to quote von der Leyen, really in tatters, and it could really somehow reconfigure the entire dynamics of the geopolitical order in a way that they somehow get themselves a new lease on life, really. So lots at stake here, ideologically, geopolitically, financially, economically. It's the sum of all fears. Religiously, eschatologically, yes.
Eschatologically,
Absolutely.
the Christian Zionists are frothing at the mouth because the end times. They're reading this as end times moments, and so they've been waiting forever for this to happen. And the further they can push it towards war or Armageddon, that somehow they're going to be realizing their sort of life's work and really thousands of years of Christianity and evangelical revisionism and all the rest of it. Here's the map, though. Arnaud mentioned these are all the U.S. bases in the region, and they all provide the security envelope for the state of Israel. Okay, that's one of the main reasons they're there. Israel can't exist without this broad envelope. Okay, and it protects Israel, gives the U.S. control, but as you can see, all of this gets activated during the missile exchanges between Iran and Israel, or when Iran fires back at Israel. You see all of these things will be activated to take drones and missiles down and so forth, all to defend and protect the little state of Israel, the little vulnerable state of Israel, a people without a land without a people, fleeing from the horrors of World War II. That's the narrative. And they must exist as a pure Jewish state, and the United States is going to back them to the hilt no matter what, okay? And as Arnaud said, and as Freddie has also alluded to, this is part of a much bigger geopolitical play. And Israel acts really as the U.S. proxy and the British proxy before that in the region. That is a Western Anglo-American pure beachhead in the Middle East. But they have their own agenda as the Jewish community, tribe, the Jewish nationalist project. They have their own greater Israel agenda. It's kind of a quid pro quo. The U.S. and Britain and the Europeans say, we'll help you with the greater Israel project. You have to be our local enforcer for our broader geopolitical aims. When Iran falls, Netanyahu's already said Pakistan's next. That Islam can't have Islamic country with the nuclear weapons. And India and the Israeli relationship seems to be very chummy. And that's not by coincidence either. That will provide a great launching pad for China to contain China or to attack or to sabotage the Belt and Road Initiative. So those are the big picture themes there. So, Freddie, we're going to break. I want to give you the final word, Freddie, but we've got a couple of minutes left, and I'll get a very brief word from Arnaud as well before we break, gentlemen. But the main fulcrum of this discussion, of course, is Tulsi Gabbard. She's in a position, if she went public, as Ray McGovern said, to really throw doubt and shade on this diabolical engineered war that nobody really wants other than the military-industrial complex, the Israeli lobby, Israel, and the elites in the U.S. and Europe. Nobody else really benefits from it other than them, but they have a lot of power. So your final thoughts on this situation. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I think, Patrick, what my concern here is the lack of respect and for countries' aspirations. We always talk about Iran, but the other countries have nuclear aspirations. Saudi Arabia being one of them. So by saying basically that Iran is not able to develop a peaceful nuclear program, and by battering the idea that they are only enriching to develop weapons of mass destruction, it basically kills everybody else's aspiration. And anyone in the Middle East and in West Asia that maybe that we want to move away from the oil and the gas and would like to have some kind of plan B or some kind of mix energy plan for our countries. Surely this is in the interest of everyone. Now, my concern is that what is about to happen, if it's going to happen, is going to kill all this aspiration, because if Iran's now, we're setting a precedent and we say, you build a nuclear power plant, you enrich uranium, we'll come after you and will destroy your country and your people along the way. And that means that it's sending a message across nations which have an aspiration. And that's really, for me, is just absolutely unacceptable. But it could also have a reverse effect, saying rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran and other countries was going to say, look, how much, S are we going to take from the United States / Israel? When Israel has clearly a nuclear weapon program, which will, I believe, soon going to have more incline and more understanding on how big and how consequent it is, and how well developed it is. The IAEA is not going to tell us anything, but perhaps Iran with the new blueprint will.
A lot to think about there. All important points Freddie's bringing up there. Go ahead, Arnaud. Give us your final thoughts on this.
Well, to be sure, I'm going to quote Mohammed El-Baradei, the former IAEA chief, who today or yesterday essentially said that if this catastrophe goes through its final, logical conclusion, it's the entire NPT regime that's going to be, torn to shred. Which I guess, on top of the international legal system, UN agencies as such, being themselves politicized, it's only going to be the final nail in the coffin. But what I'm afraid this is going to lead to is the exact opposite of what the NPT and IAEA were trying to prevent, which is a full-out proliferation, because what's the message here? Play by the rules, abide by your obligation within a specific legal confine, go out of your way to try to please the people across the table from you. In the end, if they've decided to take you out, there's not a goddamn thing in the world you're going to be able to do about it. So the message is get nuked up as fast as possible.
That's right.
Yeah. The JCPOA had complete control over enrichment, fully supervised. It was transparent, but Trump tore it up in his first term because Israel told him to, because they were planning for this moment now. And this could have, as you guys said, it could have come sooner, happened to come later. But this was part of the plan, was to kill the JCPOA and then somehow blame it on Iran. And maybe in the United States, and the which path to Persia paper, which we've posted Brian Berletic's excellent analysis on this. He's been talking about this for years, but that Brookings Institute, it's literally in print, published in 2010. Chapter and verse, that's what's going on now. Actually, before we go, as you mentioned, the IAEA, Freddie posted this on his X account. Let's bring this up now and take a look. So apparently, okay, Rafael Grossi spoke to Christiane Amanpour, and I'm no fan of Christiane Amanpour, trust me. She is the biggest war queen that we've ever seen. However, she's pro-Palestinian, and she's not a friend of Israel, as far as I can see. I think she's Iranian background herself, probably horrified at what's going on. So like sometimes these people end up on our side on some of these issues here. But Freddie posted the audio extract of this. I think it's worth a brief listen. And so this is the International Atomic Energy Agency, implicated in sharing intelligence with the Israelis, by the way, to target Iranian nuclear scientists. That's what the Iranians put out in their intelligence leak. So they're under the gun, especially Rossi himself, meeting with Naftali Bennett for years and so forth, and the Israeli officials. It's crazy. The International Atomic Energy Agency goes to meet the Israelis to talk about Iranian nuclear weapons when Israel has 200-odd nuclear warheads, undeclared, unsupervised. Iran has none, but yet they're talking about Iran. So here, listen to this. Let's see what's said here.
So would you tell me, please, and tell the world exactly what Iran was doing, and was it at breakout? Had it taken that decision, do you think, or would it have done?
Well, there are, to help you there, I have to say that there are things we know and there are things we do not know. Mm-hmm. When it comes to what we know, it is on the basis of our inspections. And where we are on very solid grounds is when it comes to the material that Iran has or had at its disposal to produce a nuclear device. Talking about here the enriched uranium. In terms of the material, they, and this is something that I have been reporting to the Board of Governors of the IAEA, they have enough material to, in case they decided, this is a hypothetical construction, of course, in case they decided to develop a nuclear weapon, the material is there because they have more than 400 kilograms of uranium enriched at 60%, which is one step away from the 90% which is required for a nuclear bomb, for a nuclear weapon. But of course, as you know, to have a nuclear weapon, you need more than the material. The material is, of course, extremely important. And this is why there has been so much commotion and so much excitement and so much concern in the world about this issue of the material itself. But then you need to metallize the uranium. You have to have neutron, detonators. You have to have a number of things that go inside the warhead to make it explode. Not to mention the fact that you may or may not wish to test it or to try it. So I would say, there is this competition about who is wrong or right about the time that would be needed. Certainly, it was not for tomorrow, maybe not a matter of years. I would there be perhaps more serious about this, and I don't think it was a matter of years. But this is speculation. Why? I go again to the beginning of my comment. These things we don't know, because if there was some activity which was clandestine or hidden or away from our inspectors, we couldn't know. What we informed and what we reported was that we did not have, as in coincidence with some of the sources you mentioned there, that we did not have any proof of a systematic effort to move into a nuclear weapon. There were many elements there, and I said in my report, you mentioned what happened here in Vienna. In my report last week, I said that it was certainly not very helpful that some Iranian high officials were saying, in fact, we have all the pieces of the puzzle that are needed to have a nuclear weapon. The issue was and is a very serious one, but I have to be objective. I am an auditor. I am an international inspector. I am not an analyst, or in the sense of a political analyst or a political scientist. What we are telling you is what we have been able to prove. The material is there. There have been in the past some activities related to the development of nuclear weapons, but we did not have at this point these elements.
So, it's about as conclusive as one could get on that. So, but we have to go by the official bodies, because isn't that what everybody is relying on? But Trump kind of wants it both ways. The Israeli want it both ways, with the official bodies when it suits them, and when it doesn't, we know better, and we're acting in self-defense, etc. It's a disaster in terms of international relations. It really is, and hugely dangerous. So let's hope that cooler heads prevail, gentlemen. And I want to thank both of you, Freddie Ponton, who is the associate editor of Global Affairs at 21st Century Wire, independent journalist and researcher. Thank you. And Arnaud Develay, political consultant, international human rights lawyer, and author of Foreign Entanglements, the definitive treatise on the Biden corruption in Ukraine. You guys are doing amazing work, both of you, and your archives are up at 21st Century Wire as well. If you guys want to see what Freddie and Arnaud are doing, some great samples and catalogs of their work up there, interviews, articles, etc. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Patrick.
There they go, and that's all we have time for this midweek wire, folks. And very important, very tense times, to say the least. A lot of people are concerned, not knowing where things are going to end up. Certainly, I'm in that camp as well, and we're all worried. We're all worried at this point. We've got some unstable people in politics that are potentially throwing the world into absolute chaos here, and our confidence level is very high. Leaders make the right decisions, that they're going to be prudent, and they're going to be measured and sane. I'm not convinced. I'd like to be convinced. So we're hoping for the best, obviously, but this all could kick off within 24 hours. We just don't know. So listen, we're going to break anyway. We appreciate those of you who've been listening live on our various platforms, and appreciate your engagement in the comment threads as well. We're not taking any comments at the moment for the Midweek Wire. We do on Sunday during the Sunday Wire show, and that is on ACR here on our platforms, 21st Century Wire. And we do review the comments during Overdrive every Sunday, 5 till 8 UK, 12 till 3 Eastern Standard Time. And we usually have a pretty interesting lineup, either of a main guest plus our solid team as well in the second hour, going through the audience feedback as well. And so that's there. And we totally rely on your support here. So either by donation or subscribe and become a member, support our investigative news fund, and basically supporting our operations here at 21st Century Wire day in, day out. We're putting out fantastic content. We've got a great team, and we have some great shows, the Midweek Wire, the Sunday Wire, and we're going to be here. We need your help to do more. So again, I know a lot of you like this show. You give us fantastic feedback. Do consider supporting us, either regularly every month, just around $5 a month, or you can also get us on just spot donations, and many of you do that, and we appreciate it. Every penny goes towards making this platform better and making our content better as well. And we need your support now more than ever. These are difficult times. We have censorship issues. We have deplatforming. We have throttling, all of that, to break through the algorithms, to make sure this content gets out to more people. All of your support makes that happen, as well as the production of the content itself. So thank you very much, you guys. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. This has been the Midweek Wire, and I will leave you with one of the great independent artists that we also platform on this and the Sunday Wire, Peyote for President, the Palestinian Children. Take care, you guys. All the best.
All of the pictures left unpainted, all of the games they left unplayed, all the laughter in the playground, all of the art they never made. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. All of those voices left in silence, all with their names written in kind, lest their bodies poked from rubble, lifeless empty dolls to find. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. What are the songs they've never written? What are the words they'll never sing? And the darkness of the nightmare, inescapable that rings. The ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. I hear the crying, helpless children, God's most precious and most dear. I hear them begging for the reason. How could you ever leave us here? I close the eyelids of a million Palestinian children. So what do we really stand for? Is this how our future's made? And when we ever find the courage to stand up unafraid, I tear away the persecution of the Palestinian children. Rise up and be the guardians of the Palestinian children. To respect our obligation, every creed and every nation, 'cause every soul deserves protection. Save the Palestinian children.